days around.
Hello and welcome to the Tottenham America channel. Today we will be rating every player's performance from Tottenham Hotspur's loss to Aston Villa by 2-1 as Douglas Luiz and Jacob Ramsey scored for the Villains to give them a huge boost in European football and to give Tottenham a bigger step back as they now are tied on points with Aston Villa, ahead only on goal difference. We'll start with goalkeeper Fraser Forster. I'm going to give him a 5.5.
I'm going to give Fraser Forster a 6.5. He wasn't bad. He made some crucial saves. I think the only part he could have done better was Douglas Luiz, I believe it was, his free kick.
Yeah.
Which he needed to come across goal and get there a little quicker.
Yeah, but he made some important stops throughout the rest of the game. The game easily could have gone to 4-0, but Fraser Forster made some very important stops. We'll move to Emerson Royal, who played in a part of a back three. I'm going to give him a 5.5.
I'm going to give Royal a 6.5 as well. I thought he was probably one of our best, I think our best player on the
Best of a bad bunch.
Best out of the bad bunch on the starting lineup.
Solely because he looked the most solid.
Yeah, he was making tackles in crucial moments, saving us right at the end, last-ditch tackles, and he's looking so much better after he's come back from injury and continuing the form where he left off after he got injured and when Pedro Porro stepped in for him.
Yeah. There were definitely better performances. I think last week he played a lot better than today, but no, by no way was he actually the worst player on the team. There were players who were a lot worse, but Emerson still didn't have a great performance. We'll move to Cristian Romero now. I'm going to give him a 5.
I'm going to give Cristian Romero a 6.
I thought at times he was a bit erratic. He made some errors at times, gave away a couple of big free kicks. I think he gave away the Douglas Luiz free kick, which was basically the one that changed it from a tie to a loss after Kane scored the penalty. That was a big error from him.
Yeah, you could see his frustration boiling over later in the game. I mean, even after Douglas Luiz scored that free kick, and he was a little reckless too. In the beginning, he was first half he was pretty solid after the Aston Villa goal went in, but after that, I think he was not the best.
Yeah,
definitely not the best.
I agree. Yeah. We'll move to the last center back of the three, Clement Lenglet. Probably the worst out of the three, not by a lot, but definitely not the best. I'm going to give him a 5.
I'm going to give Lenglet a 5.5. He was definitely not great today, making some bad passes. And he didn't look very solid at the back.
He wasn't able to handle Leon Bailey constantly running straight at him, which was a big problem for us.
Yeah,
because
it wasn't just him, though. It was also Davies. Them two could not handle Bailey.
Yeah, so it was definitely a bit of a trouble point for us today. That's
what caused their first goal.
Yeah,
it was Bailey assist.
The first goal was a Bailey assist. But Lenglet really wasn't at fault. But really, for the rest of the game, Lenglet was constantly being cut out by Bailey, and I guess that happens a lot when you're not covered well by that other left wing back in Davies. But I just don't think. At times, Lenglet has some glaring weaknesses, definitely.
Yeah.
Luckily, none of them turned to goals today. We'll move to our wingbacks, Pedro Porro. I'm going to give him a 5.5.
I'm going to give Pedro Porro a 6.5. I think one of our brighter players today. Better out of a bad bunch like Emerson. Really didn't put in many dangerous crosses. He attempted a good amount of crosses. A lot of them got blocked.
Yeah, a lot of them got blocked.
A lot of them got blocked. And Aston Villa defended him really well on that right side.
Yeah. And it wasn't really like he was able to. He got on the ball a lot, but he couldn't do anything.
He doesn't link well with Richarlison.
Yeah,
he needs Kulusevski.
Yeah,
he does not link well with Richarlison.
But we'll get onto Richarlison later because I think we've got some words to say about him. But Pedro Porro was very today. Got on the ball a lot, but Aston Villa closed him down really well.
Yeah, one of our better players out of a really bad bunch.
Yeah,
but still nowhere near his best performance.
Our left wing back was Ben Davies, same as last week. I'm going to give Ben Davies a 5. Not as good as Pedro Porro. A little bland when he got on the ball. And honestly, in defense, he wasn't that great either. Like, he didn't do anything all good. And, I mean, he was okay, but nothing special.
I'm going to give Ben Davies a 5.5. Pretty much the same as Longley. Could not handle Bailey on that side at all. He was getting in behind almost every single time. And that's where Aston Villa caused the most problems for us.
Yeah. And I guess that really transpired into Longley being constantly cut out. Because if Davies is cut out, then Longley's cut out. And then that whole left side is just exposed. So that was not a very good look for us. Aston Villa constantly exploited that side. We'll move on to our midfielders now. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. I'm going to give him a 4.5.
I'm going to give Pierre a 5.5. Not looking like himself at all.
Yeah. Too many backward passes. Way too many backward passes. And that results in us just not being creative.
No creativeness whatsoever. He was creative a little bit when he played with Bentancur. Without Bentancur, though, he's just all defense.
Yeah. And
all
that's a problem
passing
for us because his partner is also all defense. Skipp was trained and made to be a defensive midfielder, like a rough tackling midfielder, not a more creative one. So Højbjerg has to take up a little bit of creativity, but he just doesn't. Every time he could take a little bit of a risky pass, he'll turn back and pass to one of the defenders, which is a big problem for us. We'll move to his midfield partner, Oliver Skipp.
Oliver Skipp, I'm going to give him a 5.
I'm going to give him a 4. Pretty poor from him, and then he was subbed off in the 62nd minute for Yves Bissouma.
Definitely the right decision.
Yeah.
Really disappointed me today. Not winning any battles in midfield. Well, didn't look like himself at all.
He lost possession a couple times, I think.
Yeah, he did get dispossessed.
In dangerous places with some poorly placed passes. Put pressure on our defense a couple times. He wasn't really at fault for any of the goals, but I think there were just points where he was a little bit slower than what we needed to be. And that resulted in Aston Villa winning possession, and then they'd attack. And we just somehow scrambled the ball away. But Skipp, definitely not the best performance from him. We'll move into our front three, which was honestly the one that had the most amount of possession, but also the part that had the least outcome. We'll start with Richarlison, who's really the poorest of the bunch. I'm going to give him a 4.
I'm going to give Richie a 4.5.
He was very poor today. Every time
mistimed every single one of his runs.
Yep.
Barely got on the ball. Didn't look like he wanted to do anything.
And a lot of the time, I feel like he occupied the same space as Kane. So, in the end, Kane couldn't do what he wanted to do because he only really had one runner and Son, who was marked by 3 players because Richarlison was hanging around the same place that Kane was. So, Richarlison needed to play more like a winger and less like a deep-lying playmaker like he was playing today. And that, I mean, he just wasn't good enough today.
Yeah.
Really, there was no
Never
outcome.
really got on the ball. And when he did have the ball for the few amount of times he did, he either had a poor touch or looked like he didn't want to do anything with it. Had so many poor touches, first touches that offset him of what he wanted to do with the ball completely.
We'll move on to Kane now. I'm going to give him a 5. He scored a penalty in the 90th minute to bring him up to 27 goals this season. Somehow, in this absolutely horrendous team, 27 goals. But Kane was mid-average today. Average.
Pretty average, yeah. I'm going to give him a 5.5.
He was trying to get those passes off to Son and Kane. Always had, more than half of them. Son and Richarlison.
And also Pedro Porro.
More than half of them were offside.
I think Pedro Porro, he likes to come up more when Richarlison is playing more down the middle.
Yeah.
But the problem is he has no support on that right-hand side. So he's just left completely alone.
Because Emerson Royal can't go too far up, otherwise he leaves Romero and Longley isolated. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation here with our wingbacks. Kane was okay. I thought he was
trying to get stuff done with the ball.
Definitely one of our better players today when he had the ball. But as a striker, you can't do much. But he did win the penalty, which he converted himself in the 90th minute to bring us within 1 of Aston Villa. So that was good, but still not a good performance from our forwards. And our last forward was Son Heung-min. I'm going to give him a 4.75.
I'm going to give Son a 5. Pretty poor performance.
He got the ball so many times.
Very wasteful with his finishing.
So many offsides. Like a ridiculous... I think it was 5 or 6.
Great in positioning. He just mistimed them. They were great runs. The only thing off was his timing. A second later, could have been onside. And maybe if he knew he was onside, he could have if he, like, in his head, he's like, oh, I know I'm onside. I know, like, I timed that myself, and I know I'm onside. Then he has the confidence, I'm like, okay, I have to finish this. Versus if it's kind of iffy, and if he's like, oh, yeah, I think I was offside there, and he's thinking that in his head while he's trying to finish, he's not going to get it off.
Aston Villa's back line was unbelievably immaculate today. Their offside positioning was perfect, and I think we got done by it way too many times.
Yeah.
It was a simple offside trap. It wasn't anything magic where they were all running back at the last second. They were just holding themselves in a straight line, and it was so organized that Son and Richarlison and Pedro Porro didn't know how to react. And so it was offside after offside after offside after offside, and that was very, very harsh on our attack because we could not get anything going. Every single time it was just a flag raised from the linesman.
Yeah, the defense was very impeccable.
Yeah. We'll move to our subs now because that is where probably the most impact came from. We'll start with Dejan Kulusevski. I'm going to give him a 5.75.
I'm going to give Decky a 6. I thought he made a really good impact in like the first 25 minutes or so he was on. But after that, I think he got pretty wasteful of his opportunities.
Yeah.
Definitely had the ball and tried to
Good
do
stuff.
Did
A lot
good
more stuff. A
Yeah.
lot better than any of our forwards who were on
Tried
before
to do
that.
stuff with the ball, tried to create opportunities, but they did not come off for him.
Yeah.
And that kind of sums up his season.
He had one really good chance where he cuts back. He takes this long run down the right. I think it's a pass from Royal. Cuts back and sends one of the Villa defenders sliding before trying to curl it in from a really tight angle. And it literally wraps right round the post. It was really close. A really close chance. But that was the closest he went today. Arguably better than him was Bissouma, I think. I'm going to give him a 6.5.
Yeah, I'm going to give Bissouma a 6.75. Man of the match for me. I'm so happy to finally see another creative midfielder. Somewhat creative.
Yeah.
Someone that has an eye for creativity
Especially
and
after
forward passes.
all the back passes that we see with Højbjerg and Skipp. It's really nice to see that from Bissouma. 3, 2, 1, resume. And it's really important too because that is going to be what helps our attack. Right now we're really predictable in attack with just all our attacks forming from the wingbacks or from like a central pass through. And it's way too predictable from the other teams. It's easy for them to defend. When you have a creative midfielder in that midfield combo, you provide creativity from a whole new point, and that's what used to be the central flow of Tottenham.
You also need one attacking mid paired with one defensive mid. Like you can't have Skipp and Højbjerg. You need like Skipp and Sar or Højbjerg and Benta.
Yeah.
Or Højbjerg and Bissouma.
That's kind of been what Tottenham has been built on for the last probably 12 years. We had Eriksen, we had Dele Alli. They were the central creative playmakers to our team. We lost them, but then we still had creativity in Ndombele and Lo Celso. It may not have been the best in the world, but it was certainly still that we still had creativity in midfield, which meant that we were still scoring goals under Jose, and they weren't the same repetitive type of goals from the wingbacks. You know, they were different goals every time because with that creative playmaker, you have the ability to change up your game and still score the goals. But as soon as Conte comes in, especially this season, it's just the only thing that's happened is wingbacks.
That's all that's happened at Spurs.
I'm pretty sure we've had a record number of attempted crosses this season. And that's been a big mistake on our part and probably on Conte's part because it's too predictable. Yeah. It's too easy. You just overload the wings and then Tottenham are just
shut us down
powerless.
Completely.
Yeah.
What can we do?
Yeah. But that's it for our ratings for all the players from Tottenham's 2-1 loss to Aston Villa in a vital game for the European football race in the Premier League. If you enjoyed and want to see more Spurs content, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Comment down below what you want to see more of on this channel. Until next time.
Come on, you Spurs!